gave it to us, thank God. And then the other half of like, we fucking had them, bullshit, don't give it to them. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it's a
can't please all the people all the time.
logistical thing, and you aren't going to please all the people. Yes, it's just something to keep in mind. As far as anything else, that was a glaring kind of oversight.
Yeah.
Not really, but I always look back on it with fond memories as a game I loved, and so I guess what we call EA even nostalgia vision. That's what it is. It's nostalgia. Maybe you boot this up and we just realize, holy shit, this is rougher than we thought. Fuck this.
Yeah, that's kind of the beauty though of rebuilding it, with the common day, the new technology, if you will, that is more robust and maybe a little bit cleaner. But of course, we have to rely on Mike to write awesome code as well. So it's definitely an interesting project to undertake. But like everyone has seen so far, we've got quite a bit of support, and that's an immense nod to just the movement and the overall experience that we've all had. So it's definitely a pleasure to tackle it, no matter how daunting or not daunting it may seem.
Yeah. And look, if your text-based game comes down in 2016, you're having problems. No, I'm just joking. It's a thing. It's a real thing. So. And I have to applaud you guys. I've not seen much. In fact, our brief conversation before, this is kind of the first time I've really been shown the kind of casting you've got going out here, the Twitch stream, and what you guys have been doing, and I'm kind of blown away. I had my own attempt at it, and have gotten pretty far, but just got caught up in work, like you do, like I think everyone that kind of approached it has, and I think you guys got a lot of momentum in the right direction that I don't think is going to stop. I think you've got enough now that you're going to carry on, and I'm looking forward to it, brother.
Awesome. Yeah, we're very happy to have you, and definitely thanks for stopping by. If anybody has any questions in the audience, feel free to chime in. We're again, if you just started listening, we're talking with our friend Zackerias, who was a staff member at DFC. He was an event creator as well as content designer, and he played as Eternal Magus in Evil for quite some time. So definitely, if you have any questions, feel free to chime in. And I don't have a whole lot more questions that I can think of. Nick says, tell him the identity of Zackerias.
Yeah. And I spoke with him a few times, but sadly, never figured that out either. He kind of was up and in the game when I came up, and then kind of disappeared. So I, not a clue. I was more interested, not much in the fellow staff members as I was with Mythic and getting that next step up to get my foot in the door to go to DAOC, which I did. So I wish I could tell you. I could tell you all about the actual people at Mythic. Plenty of time sitting in Mark Jacobs' office and everything else. So
yeah, I mean, so what was it like working with the guys at Mythic? And then was it fun? Did you guys have a good time?
It was a blast. A lot of people kind of shame EA for not paying and treating their employees right. Half of that's true. The pay, not so great. But I'm also talking as a high school dropout. I may have gotten paid more if I actually had a degree, right? But as far as the environment, we're talking about some of the most creative and invested individuals at a company. And I know as much as we like to gripe, and even I griped at Mythic for some of the stupid shit that they did, there truly was a love, and I do mean a love for what they did. We all want to be there to do the things we want to do. When the money man comes around and says, no, you can't do that because you didn't give me a graph telling me how much money it'd make me, it kind of hurts your soul a little bit, and then you try to go back and make the graph and make the adjustments to pay the piper, so to speak, to get your content in. But The environment was fantastic. You know, the only company I've ever worked at where you're allowed to drink beer. The artists would go out and smoke pot in the fucking, parking lot and come back and draw their best art. And I'm not trying to blow anybody's spot up. I'm just saying that type of, just to stereotype an artist, that type of talent tends to go in one direction for some creativity.
Right.
But it wasn't frowned upon, it was accepted, and there was a real culture there. And Mythic's culture before even EA came in was fantastic. They all put mortgages on their house, they all sacrificed to put DAOC out, and a lot of people don't see that, but they had an idea and a vision and they stuck with it. And it was those kind of people that really got me invested into gaming even more. They were really good people. How far did I get on my own build? I got as far as the interconnectivity. I had a test, actually, a live test I think Owen came to. I got the rooms working, you can move around and everything else like that. And I started to get stats to work, and then I kind of just work heated up for me. I'm a programmer now in real life, so it gets kind of busy, sadly.
And then, then the Nix has a question asking if you knew who Belladonna was and if you worked with her.
Julie, yes. If it's the Julie I'm thinking of, and I don't know if her name was Belladonna but there was a Julie that worked on DAOC, and she was brilliant. Wrote some of the best quests you will ever see, by the way, in DAOC, like the Halloween quests where you go from tower to tower and you kill the jack-o'-lanterns, and I mean, she was so creative. And again, this is showing of them having someone who's just passionate, loved what they did, and poured it into their quests and their content, and that's what you see a lot of the time. Yeah, programming's a huge profession still. In fact, it's increasing. I work with some of the local colleges here, and if you're thinking about careers, although hopefully most of you, if you play DFC, you've got a career by now.
I hope so.
not busting on anyone, but programming's a good career. I went from DAOC content development. I did some programming on Warhammer for the UI and for the guild system, and then eventually went back to school, and I do avionics work in the aerospace industry now, which I get paid really well. I'm not gonna lie. I also don't get a minute of fucking free time. So
right, exactly. Yeah, you either less money, more time, or the opposite.
Correct.
Unless you're the top 1%, of course. Julie Schmooley. Okay, that doesn't sound made up at all.
No.
I'm guessing that your favorite character was the vampire. Is that correct?
Oh yeah. So not to push my own desire here, but I think my second favorite was the Sin Elves. I had a little Sin Elf. I think he made it to 45 or something like that. Never invested in him too much, but when Eternal was just too low on con to do anything, I got on this little teeny Sin Elf. But it was kind of cool because, again, we talked about dynamics and things being different. I may not have been able to kill anyone, but I could sure as fuck heal the realm really hard. You know what I mean? So there are some characters that have impact from the get-go. Those Sin Elves were boss. All those buffs they could throw at you, it was awesome. So
right, and then having the regeneration buffs as well was pretty huge too.
Oh yeah, once you hit I think level 3 of that buff, everyone in plan all over, please give us this buff. And I just remember logging on and just be like, all right, I'm in the Arch, come here, you got 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Yeah, the regeneration buffs were boss. So now, what about you? Has anyone interviewed you, Owen? Why do you have a passion for Darkness Rises? Now I'm gonna turn it around. Now I get to be CNN.
Nice.
Let's go.
No, that's great. I dig it. So where does the passion come from? I think that obviously there's some degree of just being invested in games and just in that realm in general. So I've always tried to keep myself at least pointed in that direction. And I think that as a kid, way before DFC, back in the '80s, we had Nintendo. And then that just kind of spawned from there. And I think that, to be honest, I think that my father actually had kind of an impact on that as well, because I think without my father, I probably wouldn't be here today. Obviously, because of
Well, he
the whole.
donated a little bit, 50%, right? But no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But the reason why I bring him up is because he was into Dungeons and Dragons, like the tabletop, and back in like the '70s, I think. So he was really kind of experiencing the outburst, the first creative outburst of role playing games in their true form. So I think that following his footsteps in a way, just in my own direction, I've kind of had that in my mind, or in my my persona, to want to do something creative in that sense. And I think that games, growing up with them, and then ultimately experiencing and being lucky enough to experience GameStorm, which is where I first started to see Darkness Falls and Legends of Kesmai and all those great games, MageStorm. And so it's basically just having myself kind of being minded towards games in general, and kind of the creative aspect, and then just also being lucky enough. So, and I think so with this project specifically, I think just as much as anybody else in the community, I'm one to think that, like, hey, like, we need to make this happen. I've always tried to join projects and work on projects, Syra and Shattered Glory, and random other projects that I can't even remember. Like I think Anyanka had her own version called like Shards of something, like way back, like just random stuff. I always wanted to be in a creative environment. So
Awesome. So it looks like Nick's. I have to go. I'll watch the rest of this later. Do me a favor, let Eternal know that I played DOC forever. Hib Bedivere Blade Master. Loved it. Went to Warhammer. It was bad. What happened and why couldn't it be salvaged? So I touched on that briefly in an odd way. I told you that there's this marrying period, this transition period, where it takes at least 5 years or so for corporate buying out someone else to get aligned, to get things lined up. And so you have DAOC. EA comes in and says, here's some more, do great things with DAOC. And they did, because EA still wasn't involved with a lot of decision process making. Now, they weren't involved with the decisions. They're involved in process, because corporations like process. They like to have things, have steps. And Warhammer started, they got their big influx of money from EA. And they started in kind of the same vein that DAOC did. And they had a great IP, and they had the great ideas. And then as we started to get late in development, there was pressure to put it out to make money. And then there was more pressure to put it out to make money. Then when it wasn't making money, they stepped in and said, now, these are the process things you're going to do to ensure we're going to make money. And so what happens is that creativity got stifled, that marrying period kind of ended. And if they had released it on time, it probably would have been a success, because they wouldn't have gotten their hands into the process so much. But because EA got into the process because they were worried about their money, that started to become the issue. And so processes changed. There were things that they really wanted to include inside that game that they just could not, because EA said, nope, too much money, launch it before that, which is a shame. But it also... I don't want to put all the onus on EA, and I'm not trying to be an EA supporter. Trust me, they laid me off. Not too happy with them. At the same time, we had a lot of producers that were promising a lot of things that they just could not deliver. And so the fault is 50-50. You know what I mean? I'd love to just be able to like, EA, you're terrible, but no. We promised, we couldn't deliver, and that's a big issue. And at a certain point, you can't just keep dumping money into something that's not going to do well for you. Corporations wouldn't be around at all, and we do need some of them, right? So that's kind of your answer, is that it's kind of that marrying period ended. There's a 50-50 problem on each side, and because they were in that transition period, things really collapsed. And they could have done well, because there are some things that Warhammer did that were fantastic. The public quests and the PvP were really good.
Very good insight indeed. Do you have any
Yeah.
follow-up